Okay, welcome everyone to Dads Today, a conversation with the CHKD Fatherhood Consultant. My name is Michelle Tryon. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator here at CHKD, and I'm so happy to have Andrew Jatau here with me today to share some insights and information on being a dad in today's world, and to tell you about a new virtual Dads in Action program that CHKD will be launching in January 2021. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Even on the Zoom platform, it's great to see you. So first off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself as a professional and as a father, and what prompted you to want to work with other dads?
Yeah, certainly. So as Michelle said, my name is Andrew Jatau. I am a licensed professional counselor. I currently providing mental health services to kids and families in Hampton Roads. So currently I have a private practice in Virginia Beach. So since March, I've been doing telehealth sessions and been meeting virtually with clients. And so I also own an online company called Mile Marks. So through that company, I create digital counseling products to use with kids and teens to promote healthy social emotional growth. I am the father of a 5-year-old daughter and a soon-to-be 3-year-old daughter. And so what really prompted me to wanting to work with dads just came about from my transition into fatherhood when my first daughter was born, and just recognizing that there didn't seem to be a lot of opportunities out there to be able to connect with other dads and connect with other men. And really weren't a lot of opportunities for dads to have that time to have that quality time with their children. And so this was something that I thought would be beneficial in this area to be able to work on creating and developing a program to really give dads the opportunity to meet other men and other dads around Hampton Roads and create those connections, but then also have the opportunities to create those connections and memories with their kids as well.
Yeah. So I remember having those early conversations with you, would have been like 3 or 4 years ago now, even before
Yeah.
your second child was born. And so this is really exciting to see this kind of come to fruition. So I have a question for you. How do you think being a dad today is different than being a dad, say, when your dad was raising you?
So I think we've actually started to make some changes and evolve for the better. I think fatherhood is starting to evolve to where it's being more accepted and more encouraged for fathers to be able to play an active and involved role in the household. I think prior there were certain gender norms and gender roles that kind of, put the role of a father in a box as far as you were strictly the breadwinner. So your sole responsibility was to go work and provide, financially for the family. But in regards to being a caretaker, helping around the house, having a certain type of relationship with your children, this was something that wasn't necessarily encouraged. And so I think that we're nowhere near where we need to be, but I think that we're making progress to where dads are becoming more involved and they are encouraged to be, part of the growth of their children and to show emotion and to be a caretaker, to be a stay-at-home dad if you wanted to. So, there's a lot of benefits and research out there that just talks about, the role of the active father and how beneficial that is to the development of children as well. So I think there's still societal pressures that continue, just not even in regards to fatherhood, but men in general. But I think we're slowly making progress towards challenging some of those pressures and beliefs in regards to fatherhood.
Yeah, and that's wonderful, and good to have conversations with other dads about those types of things, so that we
Definitely.
can evolve and do better. And it's the best thing for children too to have really involved dads in their lives.
Hmm.
So let's think about the pandemic. I mean, who's not thinking about the pandemic, right? How has the
Yeah.
pandemic impacted you and or, the dads that you come in contact with? Are there changes in rules or roles based on all of what's happening around us?
Yeah, and so, first off, for me personally, I just consider myself blessed to be able to continue working and be gainfully employed during the pandemic. And so I know every family situation looks a bit differently, but luckily I was in a role, in a position where I was able to transition from in-person session and start working virtually. And I know a lot of people have not been able to do that. And so, there's definitely families that are facing those challenges in regards to employment and financially. But I think something that everyone has experienced is that it's just a change, it's an adjustment. And whenever there's any sort of major change or adjustments, that brings big emotions with it and a lot of stressors. And so it's just an escalation in the level of stress. It's also escalation in the levels of anxiety as well too. And so not just changing from your routine, but then also not knowing how long these changes are going to last for you and for your children as well too. And I think, like as you mentioned, there has been some shift in roles as well too. And just being home all the time, you are sort of forced to figure out, okay, what do things look like when I'm in the home where I might have worked all the time. And I know for me, it was one of those things where, there were certain days when I was at my practice and I would work late, until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I wouldn't see my children, when they got home from school or from daycare. And so I would see them for an hour in the morning, and then, that was the last time that I saw them. And, the last thing they would say to me is, see you tomorrow. And that was kind of difficult. But with the transition to doing things virtually, I've been able to see them more. And so I've been able to do my sessions with the client and then walk out that door and spend time with them and then come back and continue to work. So I think that part has been a positive, but then it's also in regards to parenting, children don't know whether you're at home or you're at work. And so they want that attention all the time. And so unfortunately, there's not a lock on my office door. And so they don't know if daddy's working or not. And then they open the door and, peek their heads in. And so it's that trying to get them to understand things look a little bit differently now as well. And they're going through stuff too. Children are, my daughter's in kindergarten, and so she's having to do it virtually this year. And there's a lot of parents with older kids, a lot of parents who had seniors who didn't get to finish out their senior year. So it's just been an adjustment and a transition. And so I think with that just brings, like I said, escalated levels of stress and anxiety. And, a big part of that just depends on how you cope with those things. So, are you the type of dad who's able to cope with that well? Do you take it out on other people in the way that you communicate with them? It's just been difficult, and it's been a challenge, especially for a lot of dads that I've talked to, come in contact with, and that 24/7 parenting can be challenging. It's something that we're not necessarily used to, whether it's daycare or them going off to school, unless you're a stay-at-home parent, that's an adjustment for you. And so I know a lot of times by the time the end of the weekend rolls around, it's like, it's been a long time with you kids. And the pandemic is just every day was just that. When you're quarantined, every day it was you and the children. And my kids loved it because they got to see their parents, but then you try to figure out how to entertain them. And yeah, so it's a challenge. I think at this point, we've adjusted pretty well, but it's just been a struggle. And I think we're just uncertain of what's to come.
Right. And I heard someone say, I don't know, a few days ago, during all of this, we don't want our children to feel like they're a burden, that we're trying to figure out, how can we take care of them and all the other things that we need to do. So I love that you talk about, the positives in there as well, and that they really do pick up on your cues, whether you can be, in composure when you're feeling stressed and kind of have conversations rather than take it out on people. So really, dads are such an important role model for children. So,
Yeah, and that's really the biggest challenge right there is, during your levels of stress is how can you keep from taking that out
right,
on other people. And I know with a lot of people I've talked to or clients I've worked with, the challenge is that the way that they may usually cope with stress has to change as well too, because, whether it's, I go to the park and go for a walk while the parks were shut down for a while there,
right,
or I go to eat with my friends. Well, we're supposed to physically
yeah,
distance from each other. And so you just have to get creative and think of, okay, this is our new reality. So how can I cope so that I'm not negatively impacting my family members or
right.
negatively impacting my children?
Yeah, and not just negatively impacting, but actually teaching them some good coping strategies.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
being role models.
you kind of already answered this question, but the next question I had was, what do you think children need from their dads right now?
Um, so one of the big things is just, I think each child needs something different. Everyone's situation is different. And one of the quotes or the analogies that I like in sports, that they say is the best ability is availability. And I
Mm,
think is, when you're part of a team, just being there is very important. Just being available to whatever your child may need. So the child's need changes from day to day, from hour to hour. You just need to be there to be able to address it. You may address it the correct way or the wrong way. You have to go back and relearn some skills and come back and work through it again with your kid. But just being there is extremely important. So the more available that you can make yourself
mhm.
to meet the needs of your kids, the better.
Oh, I love that. Just being available. That's the greatest gift you can give a child.
Yeah.
So I know part of the program, the Dads in Action program, is a Fatherhood 101. So what's
Mhm.
one piece of advice you might give a new dad?
So as a counselor, I think the communication is key. There's a lot of conflict that arises from lack of communication or lack of effective communication. And I know that for a lot of men, we haven't been raised or taught how to properly communicate or effectively communicate our needs or feelings to other people. And so it goes back to the question I posed, how do you deal with high levels of stress? And so for men, our tendency is to revert to anger. And it's either to act out aggressively or to shut down completely. And so when you're dealing with high levels of stress, whether it's going through the pandemic or becoming a new father, which is stressful, it's how are you communicating your feelings and your needs to other people. And so learning how to communicate effectively with your partner, whether you're still together with them or not. That's something that I bring up a lot is, whether you're staying together with this person or not, you still have
Mhm.
to learn how to have a good relationship and good communication with them, how to communicate effectively with your kids, how to communicate effectively with your friends as well, too. I think
Right.
what men tend to do a lot is not really check in with each other in regards to some of those feelings. And so, when you check in with your friends, is it surface level communication where you're pretending everything is all good, or are you actually talking about, hey, this is stressful, this is really, really tough, or are you talking about those deeper challenges and feelings?
Mhm.
So I think the more that you're able to communicate, the more that you recognize that you're not in that situation a lot, which is really important for parents to be able to communicate and recognize we're in this
Mhm.
together, so that you can provide with each other with that space that you may need or that support or resources that you may need as well. So the more that you communicate effectively, the better things will be in the long run.
Well, that's really great advice for new dads, but also for dads of children of all ages. Really,
Hmm.
communication is so important. So let's talk about the launching of the Dads in Action program that's going to happen in January. So,
Hmm.
just tell me a little bit about what can dads expect? What are some of the topics that you might be discussing? And I know you're going to have something called Dad Talks. So tell us about those.
Yeah, so the Dads in Action program is actually relaunching. So we've been doing the program for the past couple of years, and one of the biggest parts of the program was the community outings that we did. And so, unfortunately, a little bit halfway through the year, we had to shut things down due to the pandemic. And so, over the past few weeks, just been working on figuring out how we can revamp the program to still be able to meet the needs of the dads in the community. And so part of the program that we've been able to continue has been the Fatherhood 101 classes, which is a course that's led by myself and a pediatrician from CHKD, which just helps new and expecting fathers and provides them with information just about their transition into fatherhood, helping to get them prepared. So that is something that will continue into the new year. And so, as you mentioned, we'll be doing a program called Dad Talks, which will be a monthly virtual discussion for dads, and we'll have a variety of topics for dads to come join in the conversation. So it's real informal. It's held every month. You just sign in, and you're able to give your 2 cents and your feedback and ask questions just regarding the topic of the month. So some of the things we'll be discussing include just fatherhood skills, fatherhood and discipline. So what does that look like? We'll talk about healthy and toxic masculinity in regards to fatherhood, just the difference in raising sons in today's society and raising daughters, what that might look like. Financial anxiety. So talking about the father's traditional role of being the breadwinner and the pressure that might bring to the dads or family. Talk about fathers and feelings. So as a counselor, I love talking about feelings and encouraging men to come talk about their feelings. How do you express feelings? How do you cope with emotions? And how does that impact the family dynamics? And so there's a variety of topics. As I mentioned, it's something that's real informal, but what we wanted to do was just to be able to create a space for dads to continue to connect with other dads and come and give feedback or ask questions, get advice. Just things like that.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. And I like the way that you explain it as being very informal. So if you feel uncomfortable talking about your feelings, there's no pressure. You can listen to other people.
You don't have to talk about your feelings.
You don't have to. You could just listen in. But what great topics. So how can someone get involved?
So if you are wanting to get involved with the Dads in Action program, so it's run through CHKD. And so if you go to the CHKD website, chkd.org /Dads in Action. So there's a page set up that's dedicated to the program. Through that link, you are able to see everything that I talked about, which is the Fatherhood 101, if you want to get registered with the classes, or the Dad Talks conversations, you can get registered through that as well too. So you can register for them all, or if there's specific topics that you are interested in, you can get registered that way. And then we'll be starting back up our monthly newsletter. And so the newsletter just provides more information about the events that we will have going on, and keeps you updated with things that are going on in the community or in the country or world in regards to fatherhood. So just providing some resources. I'll be writing a monthly blog, so there'll be a link to the fatherhood blog in there as well too. And so if you go to the Dads in Action page on the CHKD website, you can sign up to receive that monthly newsletter as well.
All right. Yes, you sign up for that so you don't miss anything. So thanks everyone for listening in on this conversation. Thank you, Andrew, for your insights. You always have so many good things to say. And I really look forward to seeing the success of the relaunch of the Dads in Action program, the virtual Dads in Action program, we should say. So please get involved, everyone, by visiting our Dads in Action website, or you can contact Andrew or myself at outreach@chkd.org and just ask questions and let us know what you need. All right. So you have a wonderful day, and I'm going to stop the recording